Thank you all for coming today. I'm Doug Strube, the Director of Technology and Geoeconomic Affairs at the National Bureau of Asian Research. I just want to mention a few logistics here before we kick things off. For one, please, we'll do some breakout sessions later, but please stay out of the spare conference rooms around the hallways here. We have this room reserved and then a couple for breakouts, which we'll show you two later. Just wanted to note that up front. Please put your phones on silent. During the breakout sessions, you've all been assigned a room which is color-coded on your badge. We will announce these right ahead of the breakout sessions and have people guide you to them. And lastly, I want to note that we will be recording this event starting right now. So this event is on the record. It's only recording the panels and the speaker, but we'll have audience Q&A as well, so keep that in mind. So with that, I'm thrilled to welcome you all to NBR's inaugural Pacific Technology Policy Conference. We're very excited to have you here, and we'll plan to do this next year as well. So to kick things off, I would like to introduce NBR's President, Roy Kamphausen. President Kamphausen joined the National Bureau of Asian Research in 2004 and has been president since August 2019. And prior to joining NBR, Mr. Kamphausen served as a career U.S. Army officer and a China specialist.
Good morning, everyone. As Doug said, I'm the president of NBR, and it's my pleasure to welcome you to the inaugural annual Pacific Technology Policy Conference. NBR was founded in 1989 as the, you might say, intellectual brainchild of Senator Henry Scoop Jackson here from the state of Washington, who believed and instilled in us a vision that we should be the institution that could bridge the gap between academia and the scholarly community and policymakers. And since then, and as we celebrate our 35th anniversary this year, we're very proud of our commitment to producing high-quality, policy-relevant research and analysis from our home here in Seattle. There are numerous advantages to our presence here in the Pacific Northwest, many of which are reflected in today's program. First, Seattle serves as a gateway to the Indo-Pacific. We're grateful that today's event brings together representatives from all over the United States and the Indo-Pacific, particularly our numerous participants from the Republic of Korea. And we're especially grateful for our partners at the Korea Foundation and especially the leadership of Gheewhan Kim, KF's president, for supporting this conference and its important work and ultimately for making this conference possible. Second, being headquartered outside of Washington, D.C., gives us a degree of separation, you might say, from the day-to-day political cacophony that takes place there and anchors us in our mission to promote sober, considered, and deep analysis of the key policy trends in the region. Now, we do have a D.C. office, and so we're present there, but we're headquartered here. And to that end, at the core of today's conference is a recently released NBR special report. It's on the poster over here on U.S. ROK technology and innovation cooperation. It covers three critical areas of technology policy: AI governance, data policy, and semiconductor export controls, and brings together U.S. and Korean authors to find common ground and overcome barriers to closer policy coordination. There are lots of copies available. Grab one as you're here today. Finally, being based in the Pacific Northwest provides us ready access to those who turn policy deliberations in Washington and other capitals across the Indo-Pacific into practice. We see that across all of our research teams at NBR, but nowhere is that more evident than the work of our Technology and Geoeconomic Affairs team, led by Doug. As everyone here knows, Washington is home to a vibrant technology sector with innovative companies making breakthroughs in AI, manufacturing, semiconductors, and leveraging vast quantities of data. This sector is a beating heart of the United States' innovative and economic prowess, both at home and abroad, since so many of our leading companies here in the Pacific Northwest are closely linked to suppliers, markets, and research in the Indo-Pacific. Despite this reality, there is often, sometimes, a disconnect between the private sector and government decision makers operating in Washington, Seoul, Tokyo, and Taipei and elsewhere. We hope, it's our intent, that this conference will bring together representatives from these communities and, as our U.S. ROK report did in written form, allow you all a chance to seek common ground on pressing policy questions. So I want to thank our tech sector supporters as well, Microsoft and Strider Technologies, for supporting this mission. And while I'm thanking people, a special thanks to K&L Gates and to Adam Hyde for providing us with such a wonderful space to convene this conference. Thank you, Adam. The conference is the brainchild of our newly minted NBR Technology and Geoeconomic Affairs team, led by Director Doug Strube, whom you've made and you'll hear a lot from today, as well as Jonathan Marek, his able deputy, and Jonathan is here as well. Thank you for your tireless efforts, guys, over the last several months to turn this conference into a reality. Now, we've described today's conference as path-breaking, and I believe it truly will be. Through our panels, you'll hear about the broad scope of tech cooperation between the United States and our like-minded allies and partners in the Indo-Pacific. And we'll then hear about how that cooperation plays out in 3 specific critical domains. Our panel on artificial intelligence will examine how countries are seeking to govern this nascent, nebulous, yet transformative technology, a rare case where the regulation of a technology is as bleeding edge as the technology itself. Our panel on data governance will unpack how the data that undergirds not only AI, but so many other technologies and economic activities flows or is prevented from flowing across borders. And finally, our panel on export controls and semiconductors will examine how critical hardware at the base of all data flows is protected from being put to malign use. After this, as Doug said, we'll have a series of breakout sessions that will allow each of us to choose to drill down into a niche subset of a key theme of the conference and understand the issues in more detail. We encourage your active participation in the breakout sessions and indeed throughout the entire conference. Ultimately, I hope you'll leave today with new insights and perspectives on the above technologies and the associated policy issues and questions. I hope you'll recognize the value and the necessity of collaboration, both between the United States public and private sectors and between the United States and our important allies and partners in the Indo-Pacific, of which the ROK is a principal partner. But more than that, I hope you'll appreciate that why NBR values Seattle and the area and the kind of conversations our presence here allows us to convene. That you'll understand why we're so excited for the first of many Pacific Technology Policy Conferences. Thanks for being here today. It's now my pleasure to present recorded welcome remarks from Representative Suzan DelBene. Representative DelBene represents Washington's 1st Congressional District, and she has been a member of Congress since 2012. In the House, she serves on the Ways and Means Committee and its Select Revenue Measures and Trade Subcommittees. She serves as co-chair of the Women's High-Tech Coalition. Prior to being elected to Congress, she served as director of the Washington State Department of Revenue. She also brings a unique voice to Washington, having previously been a successful technology entrepreneur as CEO and president of Nimble Technology and as a business leader with over a decade of experience and leadership at Microsoft. At NBR, we're very fortunate and grateful for the opportunities we've had to work with Representative DelBene over the years. And while she had to be in Washington, D.C. today, we thank her and her staff for arranging these recorded remarks.
Hi, it's Susan. It's great to welcome you to the inaugural Pacific Technology Policy Conference. I want to thank the National Bureau of Asian Research for inviting me to share a few words with you and for your efforts over the last 35 years to strengthen the partnership between the Pacific Northwest and the rest of the fast-growing Indo-Pacific region. Whether you've come from across the Pacific or here in Washington, I hope you're excited for today's programming. I can't think of a better venue for this exciting event than Seattle. Washington is one of the world's premier tech hubs and a gateway to the Indo-Pacific. That puts us in a unique position to play a significant role in technology and trade relations between these two innovative powerhouses. This includes business, research, and academic partnerships that will be a centerpiece of the global economy this century. This is exciting for me, not just as a Congresswoman, but also as a former technology leader and entrepreneur myself. Today, you'll have the chance to be part of discussions around data policies, artificial intelligence, trade relations, and other issues that will shape our future in the years to come. These are all issues that I work to educate my colleagues on through my work on the Ways and Means Committee, as well as forums that I help lead, like the Digital Trade Caucus and the Women's High Tech Coalition. Technology continues to advance faster than policy, but we need to catch up quickly so that we can be rule makers on the global stage, not rule takers. Opportunities like today's event are a way for you to contribute to this discussion and help develop new ideas to share with me and other policymakers. I look forward to partnering with you as we move forward in tackling these exciting challenges. Enjoy the rest of today's event.
Thank you, Congresswoman DelBene. It's now my pleasure to welcome to the stage Tami Overby, who is serving as the conference chair for this year's Pacific Technology Policy Conference. Tami is a senior advisor in the East Asia and Pacific practice of Albright Stonebridge Group. She's also a member of the Board of Advisors at MBR. She advises clients on Asian investment and trade matters with a particular focus on Korea. Over the past 3 decades, she's built a deep and wide understanding of the Asian trade and investment landscape. Previously, she was Senior Vice President for Asia and President of the U.S. Korea Business Council and the U.S. Chamber of Commerce, where she represented American businesses during negotiation of the TPP and in partnership with APEC, and she helped companies navigate the challenges of market access and investment issues throughout the region. Earlier in her career, it's hard to believe you've done all this, she spent 14 years as president of the American Chamber of Commerce in Seoul, Korea, where she helped grow the bilateral trade relationship and supported the completion and ratification of the U.S.-Korea Free Trade Agreement. Tami, so glad to welcome you here. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Ron. Well, thank you, Roy, for that very kind introduction. My mother would be so shocked. But I also want to give special shout out to the National Bureau of Asian Research for putting on this timely conference together and inviting me to serve as the conference chair. I'm also thrilled to be with y'all here all in Seattle, looking at this incredible view, which is much better than Washington, but with all of you to discuss these really critical issues. I also want to thank the Korea Foundation, not only for sponsoring this important conference, but also for being a long-standing partner of NBR's research and of the U.S. South Korea engagement more broadly. They have long been among the most significant champions of deepening and strengthening U.S.-Korea ties, and I'm personally very grateful for these efforts and the progress that we've seen between bringing our two countries closer together. Now, I spent more than 20 years living and working in Seoul and have dedicated most of my professional career to improving U.S.-Korea business, cultural, and political relations. So I'm always thrilled to have an equally enthusiastic partner like Korea Foundation. Now, throughout my 35 plus years of engaging with South Korea, I have witnessed this alliance bloom from one rooted primarily in defense and security into the current state of a thriving economic, technological, and cultural exchange. During that time, South Korea developed rapidly into a highly advanced technological powerhouse that is well established as a global leader in the semiconductor industry. Now, I'm also old enough to have heard stories in Seoul about the former chairman of Samsung, Lee Kun-hee, he's the grandfather of the current chairman, deciding to bet on semiconductors over the objections of his father, the then chairman of Samsung, and Samsung executives, and even investing his own money into Samsung to get the semiconductor business going. This was back in the mid-70s, about 50 years ago. And at that time, Samsung was known as a food, textiles, and logistics company, and they had just started manufacturing black and white TVs in South Korea. Let's also remember that after the ceasefire from the Korean War in 1953, South Korea was devastated. Most of the factories and the minerals and mines were in North Korea. So today, the fact that, depending on whose numbers you're looking at, but I always look at the ones where Korea is the best. But and in one of those numbers, Korea is the 11th largest economy in the world. And when you consider that geographically, the South Korean peninsula is roughly the size of the state of Indiana, again, no natural resources, got about 51 million people, and the fact that they are the 11th largest economy, it's a miracle. And it's often referred to as the miracle on the Han. And for those of you who don't know Seoul's geography, the Han is the name of a river that bisects Seoul. Excuse me, U.S. ROK, Republic of Korea, economic relations also rapidly developed during this time, but especially after the successful launch of the U.S.-Korea Free Trade Agreement in 2012, or the KORUS FTA, as we refer to it. Now, when I first moved to Seoul in 1988 and was an active member of AmCham, the American Chamber, American companies often said Korea, one of the hardest places to do business in Asia, because it was so protectionist back then. But when I left Seoul 21 years later, and this is now 2009, to move to Washington to run the U.S. Chamber's Asia program, American companies in Seoul said Korea was the best place in Asia to do business. And the reason was the KORUS Free Trade Agreement. Now, the significance of this shift from the traditional security-based alliance to one increasingly focused on economic engagement was demonstrated a few months ago when, in December 2023, South Korea exported more goods to the United States than to China for the first time in 20 years. That's right. When I first moved to Asia, the U.S. was everyone's number one trade partner. Today, we are no one's number one. It's China's everybody's. So for South Korea to again be exporting more to the U.S., this is hugely significant. And since President Yoon Suk-yeol took office in 2022, U.S.-South Korea political relations have continued to strengthen as well. The Yoon and Biden administrations have released multiple joint statements, launched several new dialogues and working groups seeking to increase cooperation, especially around supply chain resilience and the development and regulation of emerging new technologies. Now, growing national security concerns over potential risks associated with these new emerging technologies, especially in terms of how they could be used by bad actors, have led governments around the world to attempt to more quickly and strictly regulate these technologies. And while the goals of these policies seek to achieve are generally supported by like-minded partners and allies around the world, their implementation has in some cases resulted in unforeseen consequences that have negatively impacted those partners. It is with these challenges in mind and with the hope of a more collaborative relationship that we have gathered here today. As technology continues to advance at an unprecedented scale, it is essential that we develop policies that ensure these changes are carried out in a safe and beneficial manner. But despite these developments, there have been some bumps along the way, like the unintended consequences of the IRA, or one of the requirements for investments to take advantage of the Inflation Reduction Act, the IRA, required that EV batteries and their input come from U.S. FTA trade partners. And while Korea is an FTA trade partner, some of the Korean industries invested in mines, and a major Korean battery company invested in lithium in Argentina and nickel in Indonesia. Neither of those countries are U.S. FTA partners. So when I visited that CEO after the IRA, he said, "Does your administration know that my board is now pushing me to divest, to sell these assets? Does your administration want those assets to be scooped up by the Chinese?" I don't think so. Another IRA requirement was that electric vehicles they had to be assembled in North America. And while Hyundai Motors has invested over $10.6 billion in Georgia and Alabama for new EV plants that will create 13,500 new high-paying, good quality jobs, American jobs. Those plants are not yet operational, so they were not able to take advantage of the significant tax benefits of the IRA. Fortunately, our two governments worked hard together, came up with some accommodations, and Hyundai and Kia electric vehicles could benefit under the fleet rules. Now, with the increasing digitalization and the flow of data across borders, the impact of many emerging technologies is truly global in scope. So it is so important that the U.S. work with our allies and partners across the Indo-Pacific to develop these policies in coordination to avoid more unintended consequences. And technological breakthroughs will inevitably outpace the associated policies and regulatory frameworks. So it's essential that the private sector and civil society play a role in shaping these norms around the technologies. So I'm thankful for our sponsors from the technology and legal sectors, Microsoft and Strider Tech, also K&L Gates, and of course the Korea Foundation, as well as all of you in the audience for sharing your valuable time with us. The innovation and technology advances occurring today will bring significant benefits, but come with significant risks. It's therefore incredibly important that we work together across industries, across sectors, and across borders, which makes today's discussion so important. I hope we can leave here today with new ideas and a better understanding of the different perspectives and approaches to technology and innovation policy. Lastly, I want to highlight that South Korea is hosting APEC next year, which will provide excellent opportunities to build upon and continue the discussions we're having today. This will include a significant number of meetings for the 21 Asia-Pacific economies in Korea throughout next year, and will culminate with a CEO summit and the leaders meeting in Korea in November 2025. So I encourage everyone here to think about and look at how you can engage in the APEC process next year with Korea to continue these close discussions. And now it's my honor and really privilege to introduce one of my dear friends. Ambassador Kim Gheewhan is the president of the Korea Foundation. Now, I met Gheewhan when he was a trade negotiator in 2007, negotiating the Chorus FTA. And what you need to know about this gentleman is he is a very good negotiator. Now, we were on opposite sides of the table then, but then I met him again in Washington when the Korean government sent him to join then Ambassador Han Duck-soo, now Prime Minister Han Duck-soo's team. They sent the very best and brightest to Washington at that time to help us sell Congress on the Chorus FTA. So I had the privilege and really a lot of fun to work with Gheewhan for 3.5, 4 years to get the Chorus ratified. So what I will tell you is he is a consummate diplomat. He's a very able negotiator, but more than that, he's a dear friend. Please join me in welcoming Ambassador Kim Gheewhan.
Thank you, Tami, and thank you for your gracious introduction. And my parents would be proud and impressed as well. Good morning, everyone. This is Gheewhan Kim, head of Korea Foundation. It is real pleasure to see my old friend Roy and also Tami, together with distinguished participants, particularly Miriam Brookings Institution. Really a great gathering and a real great pleasure to meet my old friends and colleagues. I would like to say thank you, President Roy Kamphausen, for organizing this timely conference on technology policy. My most sincere greetings go to Congresswoman Representative Suzan DelBene and Ms. Tami Overby, my old friend, Senior Advisor Albright Stonebridge group as well. Basically, personally, this is my comeback to Seattle in 11 years. I visited Seattle to meet then head of International Trade Association, KITA, then ambassador turned into president of KITA. Now he's currently prime minister again. So I'm enjoying really good relations with him, and also in pursuance of my job as head of foundation, really he's a great supporter of my efforts, particularly his commitment and enthusiasm about increasing relations with the United States on a new level, particularly emerging technologies and industries. And so I'm really happy to represent his enthusiasm as well. I appreciate the valuable opportunity meeting distinguished participants from the government, academia, law firm, KL Gates, and the tech business community, including Microsoft in Seattle and in the United States. Technologies are increasingly playing roles of game changers for the future of industries and international security affairs. Global strategic competition is escalating and centering around critical science and technologies and strategic goods. Collaborations between trustworthy partners are now becoming useful channel for building cooperation on critical technologies such as artificial intelligence, quantum computing, biosecurity, climate change, space and defense technologies. They are also functioning as reliable platforms for ensuring corresponding supply chains and for building mutually dependable critical domestic industries. For example, artificial intelligence and quantum computing are not only introducing and maximizing innovations, commercial innovations in all areas of human life, but also producing highly sensitive military and warfare applications. AI-assisted misinformation, election manipulations, both domestic or foreign, are beginning to pose serious threats to the basic values and principles of democracy around the world. International artificial intelligence summits are convening to foster cooperation to manage challenges and risks of artificial intelligence, trying to avoid potential use of artificial intelligence for terrorism, criminal activities, warfare, as well as existential threat posed to humanity as a whole. Ethical, safe, responsible use of artificial intelligence is becoming a primary concern for domestic and international regulations. We call it AI governance, safety or military use, both ways. Tech policies that utilize export controls and investment screenings are closely aligned with geopolitical and strategic rivalry and security concerns that regulate the flow of dual-use critical technologies and also strategic goods. At the same time, tech policies are frequently used as industrial policies to build critical domestic industries with subsidies, some tax rates, which might eventually end up with overproduction and following fierce competition among allies and partners in certain strategic goods and technologies. When a security policy and industrial policy are combined, there might also arise some degree of confusion and suspicion on the true intention, even among allies and partners, and to their corresponding innovative private businesses seeking reliable and less risky path of lower cost, higher profit based on better ecosystem. I don't think subsidies only can sustain the advantage of the critical industries. Clear and objective specifications of the tech policies and their transparent legislation and implementation are highly important considerations in order to build confidence, predictability among allies and partners, and to avoid any protectionist complications. Ladies and gentlemen, addressing these challenges goes beyond the efforts of individual countries. It necessitates collective action of like-minded countries and like-minded people. We need to pool our wisdom and seek collaboration propelled by different national and international stakeholders, including government, industry, academia, institute, law firm, civil society, media, NGOs, international organizations. The objective for these joint efforts would be to harness technology in a manner that serves people, protects core values and interests, and upholds liberal democracy. Thereby, we bring a future together where technology aligns seamlessly with core values and aspirations. At this important juncture of global polycrisis, I trust that the Pacific Technology Policy Conference will provide timely opportunity for robust exchange of views, trending issues on technology and international security. In closing, I extend my sincere gratitude again to President Roy and able MBR staff for excellent preparations of this conference, and to say thank you again to all distinguished participants and my all colleagues and friends for your outstanding contributions. Thank you.